All right, so this is Camaro episode number 7, and I'm pretty excited about this episode because we're going to clearance this block. And kind of let me give you a quick history if you haven't watched the other videos and get you caught up. This block is a junkyard block that I picked up. It's a 4-bolt main roller block, one-piece rear main seal. And I completely disassembled the entire block, took it to the machine shop, and they cleaned it up, and they punched out the cylinders 30 over, and it had never been bored out before, so they only had to go 30 thousandths to get it clean. So once they did that, then I ordered my rotating assembly, which is on the bench behind me. And because this is going to be a 383, or because it's a 383 rotating assembly, we've got to kind of mock up the crankshaft, the pistons, the connecting rods, and then rotate it and make sure it's not hitting the block anywhere. And according to my buddy Matt, who I'll talk about in just a second, there's some known spots where a 383 rotating assembly is going to hit a 350 block. And if it does, we have to clearance that out. And we have to take away some of that metal to make sure that it's not going to hit. So my buddy Matt is the one that's kind of encouraged me to do this and to disassemble and rebuild the engine ourselves. And I can tell you, without his help, I probably wouldn't have taken this on. I've never done something like this before, but he's done plenty of these 383 blocks. He's clearanced blocks before. He's rebuilt engines before. Just has a wealth of knowledge and experience. So he's on his way over, and as soon as he gets here, we're going to get into this. All right, before we take these main caps off, I just numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm trying this thing out. It's a Sharpie permanent marking stick mean streak. It's like a paint stick. It actually works pretty well. So there it is. We're going to get these main caps off first. All right, so there's all the main caps, and even though I numbered them, I still put them in sequential order on this little shelf right here. And then here's what the block looks like without those caps on. All right, for those of you who don't remember Matt from previous Jeep videos, he is certainly the mastermind behind my engine swap. And I did an intro earlier in this video and was talking about some of your experiences, but why don't you just tell everybody some of your engine building, engine clearancing experience, because I think it'll sound more complete coming from you.
Okay. So I built one of these one-piece seal 383 strokers probably about 20 years ago. Put it in a '87 Trans Am. Good motor, ran really good. So on that particular motor, I used I think that was an Eagle crank back then. I don't even know if Scat was around then. Stock rods. I don't have these nice Scat rods as you have, which have the clearancing already done that Skip White did.
Yeah.
So on that motor, I had to do a little bit of clearancing on the rod here. I did use the ARP small caps on it, but as far as block clearancing, I don't know what casting number that was, but it was, like I said, a one-piece roller block. I hardly had to grind anything, and it was right near, I don't know if you can see on the camera, it was right around these spots, just barely on the bottom of the cylinder. And I think I had to do just a little spot here on the pan rail, if I remember correctly, but I did not have to go hog wild on that thing at all. Very, very minimal grinding. And I think anywhere it was close, I set it up for 80 thousandths clearance, just using feeler gauges. And like I said, that was a great motor. Great motor.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, and I think, John, you've read the same thing, where it just kind of depends on the casting.
Yeah.
Where some people say, yeah, you hardly have to take anything, and then some people have to take a lot. And I think, what's that guy's name at the machine shop? He told you to be careful about the bottom of the cylinder.
He said that the water jackets and the 4-bolt roller blocks are very, very close, right about the place where we're going to be removing some materials. So we have to go just remove as little material as possible.
Yep. Like I said, I'm hoping with these nice Scat rods, and it's you had Skip White already do the clearancing on them. I'm hoping that we have very, very minimal grinding on this thing. So. But it's a common, I mean, these are a dime a dozen, these 383 builds, so they're not complicated by any Any
Yeah, to
stretch
you,
of the
you've done
imagination.
it before.
Yeah, it's fine. Other than that, it's just a small block Chevy. So
Yeah, you've done it before.
yeah. And then after this, you'll be able to say you've done it.
Yeah. Yep. That's why I'm doing it, because I want to learn.
Okay.
All right, well, let's get into it. All right, so what we're doing is I cleaned this with mineral spirits underneath there, the middle one, and then the front one. And that's where we're just going to put this one in, and this one in, and the back one in, and that's the bearing right there. And the crank will sit on that just for our clearancing. So now we got, which one?
Well, just showing you how it goes together. So this will go in the cap, right? Where the block has marks for all your bearing tangs. And then that locks them in, and the rods will be the same way. So when people say they spun a bearing, what happens is normally it gets starved from oil, and it's typically on the rod bearing. It shrinks the bearing, and then these little tangs and these little oil holes, the bearing spins and it completely blocks those oil holes, and then it just gets so hot that it
So you're talking about that right there.
Yeah, these little tangs, see where they'll offset?
They offset,
so that the bearing cannot turn. That's what locks the bearing in.
Okay.
Because when you spin a bearing and turn it and it blocks those oil seals, you've starved that journal. It overheats, seizes, breaks the rod. So that's what locks those in.
That little tiny piece of metal, we're dependent upon the whole engine to work.
Yeah, but you know, once it's sandwiched in there, it really can't go anywhere unless the bearing wears out, and then it allows it to shrink, and then it gets enough room to spin.
Gotcha.
Which typically happens more in a rod journal than a crank journal.
All right, so here are the bearings. And so I'm going to line up that tang, as Matt called it, with that hole right there.
Well, that's not what I call it. That's what it's called.
So I'm just going to put this in and line up the tang. Right?
Yep. And that just spins down in there.
Just like that. Okay. Easy enough.
Yep.
Tangs are lined up. Up here, same thing. Okay. So we got 3 bearings in there. That's what our crank's going to sit on.
For clearancing.
For clearancing. Now we're going to get the crank, right?
We're going to get the crank,
Okay. All right, so this is the ARP stud kit. Short block Chevy main stud kit. See the part number there, 134-5601. And that's what we're putting in now. And then after we get these set in, we're going to lay the crank in there. But first we're going to lay down some oil in these bearings.
So we're getting ready to mock up the pistons and rods. We're going to hang the rods on the pistons. These are slide-in pins with circlips. They're not press fit. Nice bronze bushing in these. So the rod, if you see this beveled edge here, and then the flat edge.
Wait, show that again.
You see that? I don't know if the camera picks it up.
So you're talking about that little angled edge?
Yep.
Okay.
So it's slightly chamfered in there, but it's got a much larger bevel on this side.
Okay, I see that.
That bevel goes towards the crank counterweight. All right, so if you look down in that hole, right?
There's a counterweight on each side.
Yep. So that rod is going to go that way, and we're going to put another rod that's going to go that way.
All
right.
So it doesn't really matter which way you start as long as they're opposites.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And then what we do is identify that rod goes that way. Then you've got to orient the piston valve reliefs for clearance.
Which are those indentations there,
Some
right?
people call them eyebrows.
Yeah.
All right. So that means this one's going to go on like so. Actually, we're looking down the wrong hole. That is for that cylinder. It's going to be this one. So we want the large chamfer going that way, and that eyebrow will go like that.
And that eyebrow, the valve relief, goes towards the lifter valley there.
Correct.
On both sides?
On both sides, yeah. So on this side, it will go like so.
Go like that on that side. Okay.
So once you get these hung, they're pretty much interchangeable.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to put these together.
All right.
All 8 of them.
All 8. All right, so we've got our rod journal bearings out, and we're going to move over to this surface over here. Got a towel down so we don't nick or scratch anything, and we're going to go ahead and assemble these pistons to the connecting rods. Okay, so we've run into a delay, and the delay goes by the name spiral locks. And that's what goes into each side of the piston here, in that little groove in there to keep the piston in there. And these things are nothing short of a pain in the ass. So we watched a YouTube video, and the guy pulled it apart quite extensively. Let me kind of show you. All right, so that's what you start with. That's what comes out of the bag. And then you got to spread it out like that, just to the point where you feel like it's gonna lose its spring, and it doesn't. And then you've just got to slowly work it into the piston with a screwdriver, and there's just really no easy way to do that. So we're gonna keep working on these things. I think we've got 2 in like the last
3. We got 3.
We got 3,
2, 3
in like the last 30 minutes.
But each one gets 2 on each side.
Yeah, each one gets 2 on each side. So
we're gonna cuss some more.
Yeah,
probably cut our fingers up some more.
Yeah, this is not fun at all. All right, so I got the camera zoomed in, and what I'm trying to show you here is this spiral locks, and kind of how we learn trial and error of putting these things on, and how to work them into the groove to hold your pins in when you're assembling your pistons. And this isn't something I've done before. Matt's never done the spiral locks, but he's done the wrist clips?
Circlips.
Circlips. Why do I keep messing that up? I almost said it again. Circlips. So essentially what this is this is a small spring, and it goes in that groove to hold your pins in, and you can kind of see right there, maybe if I move my hands, it's a spring. So we started out kind of going like this and trying to work it in there, essentially making our fingers really raw and not really understanding this. So we jumped on YouTube and saw a guy who did it and spread this spring out further than what you're comfortable with, but when you do that, it really makes it go in pretty easy. So let me show you kind of what we've learned from doing this. Is you're going to take this spring and again kind of stretch it out a little bit further than what you're probably comfortable with till it looks kind of something like that. And when it looks like this, I promise you it will go in a lot easier. It's still kind of a pain to get started, and let me show you how it goes in. All right, so we were trying to get it in the groove that's in there to hold in that pin that obviously goes to the connecting rod. So, and I'm going to do my best to film this, but I probably won't come out very, very clear. So you're going to start off by putting in one of the ends and just kind of get it into that groove and use your finger to do it the best that you can. And you're not going to get very, very far. And that's when you want to get your small flathead screwdriver and just kind of start working it in. See how it went in just like that? And then this part is always the hard part for me. But you got to get a little bit of it in, a decent amount of that in there, and then it'll stay in there. And then you're kind of downhill from here. So once you get that first kind of circle of that spring into that groove, now you're simply just going to go around and work that back in. And it actually, once you've done this a couple times, actually goes in, I'm not going to say easy, but that one actually went in pretty easy. So there it is. Now you're going to want to make sure and confirm that obviously that is down in the grooves. And I don't know if that'll show up, but lesson learned. And we learn we're learning by doing it. And I'm glad we saw that other YouTube video. So if you guys are dealing with spiral locks and you're struggling with them, hopefully this will help you out. All right, so we finally got all of those spiral locks ends and our connecting rods and pins all put together. Now, in order to keep everything straight, we numbered all the pistons so they have the correct orientation on the valve relief, but also the correct bevel on the crank. So you got 2, 4, 6, 8 down here. 1, 3, 5, 7. That actually sounded like I knew what I was talking about, didn't it? All right, so we have the number 1 and number 2 piston in, and we're looking for 80 thousandths clearance. And we do not have 80 thousandths, but it is not...
Got 51 thousandths.
51 thousandths.
So just minimal
29.
clearance.
You can see where that bolt is, right up against the block. There's 51 thousandths clearance, and we need 80 thousandths. So we're going to have to grind a little bit
Just a
on the block.
tiny bit
Yep,
right
just
there.
a tiny bit right there. And it was not even close on this side. Turn it for me if you don't mind. From what I remember. Yeah, that's probably pretty close. I know it's kind of hard to see in the video, but you can see that bolt cap, how close it is to the block, but that's 90 thousandths. So we're good on that side. So the only thing we have to do is cut a little bit about right there, grind a little bit down. 29 thousandths of an inch. All right, so I think we're at a pretty good stopping point for tonight. We got a lot done. The spring locks certainly delayed us a little bit, but I really enjoyed that. I really had a good time, and I really appreciate Matt coming over and sharing some of his knowledge and helping me out with this because, like I said a couple of times throughout the video, first time doing this, and man, it was a lot of fun. If you've never done this, really would encourage you to do it. It's really interesting to learn and just see how all the pieces and parts go together, and it becomes, I guess, less intimidating, especially if you have a buddy who's got the knowledge and experience in doing this. So put the engine in a bag, and we'll pick up where we left off in the next video. All right, really appreciate you guys tuning in and checking out the video, checking out the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to the channel. And as always, thanks for watching.